Well, we've gone through hell with ice makers here trying to solve a problem with our refrigerator freezer ice maker. And I'm going to show you what I ended up having to do. And I'm going to explain a lot of things about these ice makers that I think will help the next person. I couldn't find information to be able to do what we just did. So here we're going to take you on a run and just go through it. And it's really pretty simple once you understand. So I'm not going to go into great detail about removing, because there's many videos, but that is the ice maker in our freezer. It's very easy to get out. There's just a couple of screws in the back holding it in, plug up there where the electrical goes in, and then you can lift it off and take it out. So we did that and replaced it with the factory recommended ice maker because ours had failed. So now I'll show you and explain what happened with all of that. So this is the ice maker that we actually purchased to replace the ice maker that was in our freezer that stopped working. Now, at first glance, it looked identical. So when you get them, they come and there is a cover over this end, like so, same as the one in the refrigerator freezer. At first glance, it looked like it was the same thing. However, once we installed this unit, we had problems and couldn't get it working right. So what would happen was the ice would get ejected when it was time, and it would fall out into the container, and it would be wet, and all the cubes were stuck together. So they weren't individual. Now, the catch bin for the ice was also getting filled with water and freezing. So it was just a big solid mass of ice. And we researched and apparently there's a way to turn down the water so you don't get as much water and they're not all sticking together. So we tried to figure that out and couldn't figure that out. This unit was different than all the ones that we were seeing. So in close examination shows that the replacement ice maker, and this is from the Whirlpool manufacturer. This is the one that now replaces the one we had. And again, it looks very close. But when you look at it closely, the width of the ice tray here, the width of this one is much smaller. The cubes are smaller. So what was happening is the water filling this thing up was too much. It overflows and joins all the cubes, so they're no longer individual, plus the overflowed water goes in the bin. Anyway, there's a lot of things I want to show you, and I'll tell you how we solved the problem. Essentially, in a nutshell, what I did was these things have 3 screws holding them right here. And when you take those screws out, the whole mechanism and electronics of the unit comes out. So basically, like so. Actually, to pull that out, this is the lock, which when the ice tray fills up, it stops making ice. So you have to pop that out to be able to, like so, to be able to get this out. Now this will come right out. And there we are. So this is the guts of the control. And the motor on this one actually seemed okay. Again, this is now the module out of my old ice maker. So, but what I want to show you on here is a couple of things. So there is an adjustment on these ones for the water flow, and it's this on the side. So if you take the front cover off when it's in there, you can adjust the water flow with this plastic hex screw. It'll take a regular slotted screw. That's not a problem. You can put it in there and you can adjust it. And turning it to the right clockwise will give you the minimum amount of water. In our case, the minimum amount of water was still too much. And what I found is I did some experimenting and timing, and it only seems to change the water flow time duration by about a second or a second and a half. And turning it down as much as we could was still too much water for this given ice maker. And I can only assume that the valves and the lines on our freezer are such that it was still too much water. Perhaps newer ones have smaller lines and it takes longer to fill. Anyway, so I took this entire module off of this brand new unit, which is the new one, and I inserted it into the unit that was not working. So again, it seemed after measuring that the motor was okay on our other one, but there's all kinds of contacts on here. And if you actually look at this, this is similar to what the controllers that used to be on dryers and washing machines. And there's a bunch of small contacts underneath here. And as you rotate this, if I remove the motor and you rotate, you'll hear all the clicking, and these little pins are connecting and setting off different processes and cycles. So somewhere along the line, one of those contacts has probably failed and not working. So by swapping out the whole unit, we were able to keep the actual bulk of the Icemaker, which was, again, a different volume for ice cubes, and just inserted it, and away we went. Now, when you insert this, you can see on here, there's a flat side on this cam. So to insert this, you need to make sure that this is rotated correctly. So here I'm just rotating. This is what pushes the ice cubes out, and you can see the blue pin in there rotating. So to get this back in, you have to just make sure that that cam, the little slot on there, is lined up with it. There's an electrical connector. You can see it right here, all the electrical connections, and they slide in to the plug right down here. Very simple. It just slides right back in. It's not a problem. And then the 3 screws hold it in place. So I'm going to put this back in, and then I'll show you basically how to test it once you put it in place. So I have it back in here. It's pushed back into place. Now there's a number of small holes on the front of here, and you can actually measure to see that it's getting power from the freezer and that things are being actuated the way they're supposed to be. But the most important thing, when you put this back in, and you want to find out, when you're trying to solve the problem we were trying to reduce the amount of water that was flowing and determining what this did and how much it was making a difference. In our case, with this new Icemaker, we couldn't, again, slow the water down enough to make it not overflow. So switch the module as I described. Once it's put back into place and plugged in, we left the cover here off the front. Cover stayed off. Now, all you need is a piece of wire. This is just a regular piece of electrical wire. Both ends are stripped. And if when it's in place and plugged in and the fridge is powered up, you can put this in to the holes, these 2 holes. The holes are labeled T and H, if you can see that on there. And you just put the jumper in there, and it basically initiates the ice making cycle. Otherwise, you could have to wait an hour or more or 2 to get it to start to do things and see if it's going to overflow or if you get the water flow right. So as soon as you put that in there, you have to make sure you push the light button in your freezer. If the light is on, it indicates the door is open. In a lot of cases, it won't work. So you may have to just take a piece of tape and tape that light button, the depressed switch, tape it in so that it's not preventing the Icemaker from working when you're watching. So I just activate it. I let it get through about a half a turn. This will start to rotate very slowly. Once it's done about a half a turn, you can pull it out because it's going to continue on its own. Obviously, to get it to work, this has to be down like so, because that is the switch that'll stop the Icemaker. So make sure that is down when it's in the freezer and you're working it. So this thing will rotate. It'll go through its cycle, and you'll see after it does its attempted dump, this will rotate. Then it'll start to lift this lever up like so. And once it actually gets the lever lifted up to the top position, within a matter of seconds, it's going to refill itself with water. And so again, I timed it and checked to see what the difference was with this screw out or in. And we were only getting about 1.5 seconds difference in water fill. And that would work. That would allow you to adjust it and make sure it's not too much water if in fact you had the right Icemaker. So anyway, I think in a nutshell, that's about it. The most important things being, you can swap the whole front module if you're like us and you can't get one with the same profile, depth, and size of cubes. If it looks like this on the front, you can just swap the whole module, put it back in, and away you go. You could even do it sitting in place without even having to remove the thing from the freezer. And the test jumper to be able to initiate the sequence to see if your water is going to overflow, and the adjuster on the side to be able to set the water. Turning it to the right all the way will set it at minimum amount of water. Turning it to the left all the way is maximum. And you can actually tell when you're adjusting it. You can see right here, there's a little copper slider, and you can see a pinhole right here. As I adjust it, you'll see that move left and right, so you can tell when you've got to maximum or minimum. There's not a lot of adjustment. It does make a little bit of difference, second and a half, not even 2 seconds, I don't think. So anyway, hope that helps. If you have one and it looks like this and you're not able to just do a straight swap of the whole Icemaker for the problems I've explained, you're in luck. You can just swap that whole front end and keep the whole old Icemaker and volumes, and things will work just absolutely fine. So if you found this useful, please like the video and subscribe.